2023, ex parte order issued March 16th, with service made on the respondent on or about March 22nd. All right, Mr. Branch, you want to give an opening?
Your Honor, if I may, we have a court reporter that had logged off because of the wait. If I could call her and get her on.
Absolutely, sure. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm bringing in a court. Here you go.
All right. I think we have the court reporter now. And just for stylistic purposes, Madam Court Reporter, this is 23 PO 2913 Myra Weaver, represented by Attorney Andrew Branch, versus Richard Weaver, represented by Attorney Ryan Mullis. And Mr. Branch, you may proceed. You're on mute, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be brief with my opening statement. Just to give you a bit of history regarding these parties, this is a TPO that is filed against a brother and sister, and a lot of their issues are stemming from a house that was purchased by their father, and upon the death of these parties' mother, the piece of property is what led to the TPO today. Now, this has spanned over 10 years at least, and the TPO's basis, however, is going to be focused on the last several months of a constant pattern of verbal, physical, and emotional threats against my client and putting those around her in danger. So what I would like or ask you to focus on regarding this case is not the property itself, but the actions that have been taken by the respondent in order to seek ownership and possession of this property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Branch. Yes, Attorney Mullis.
Yes, good afternoon, Your Honor. Ryan Mullis here on behalf of the respondent, Richard Weaver. This petition for a family violence protective order should be dismissed for two reasons. One, the parties don't have a recognized relationship under the family violence statute, OCGA 19-13-1. As we all know, they must be past or present spouses, persons who are parents of the same child, parents and children, step-parents and stepchildren, foster parents and foster children, or other persons living together or formerly living together. As Mr. Branch stated, Miss Weaver and Mr. Weaver are brother and sister and arguably do not reside together and have never resided together. The evidence will show that while the parties have a dispute over the same residence, Miss Weaver is not a valid resident or tenant of that property and that she forged a lease to give herself access to the property. This resulted in Mr. Weaver filing an eviction proceeding against Miss Weaver as she is not a valid resident of the property. That case is still pending and has a hearing set for April. The entirety of Miss Weaver's claims should actually be heard in the eviction proceeding. She simply filed this TPO to get a leg up in that case. In addition, you will hear that even if she is a resident now, she didn't move her belongings into the residence until late February. Her cited alleged acts of family violence took place in January, before she would have become a resident. And two, Miss Weaver will be unable to show that any act of family violence has occurred at all and will certainly not be able to prove that it is likely to occur again in the future. The evidence will show that all of Miss Weaver's claims amount to a brother and sister being petty with each other and fighting over an inherited residence. These claims do not amount to acts of family violence. Instead, Miss Weaver is attempting to use the TPO court to litigate the eviction case pending against her. As a timeline for Your Honor, there was a divorce between the mother and father of these parties in 2008 to 2009. The mother passed away in 2009 and the house was awarded to the mother in the divorce. Mr. Weaver is the administrator of the mother's estate and thus has the ability to control the sale of the property. Both parties have rights to proceeds from the sale once it occurs. There is also a current probate case with Mr. Weaver as the administrator of the estate, and there is a current contempt case in the Superior Court against the father for failure to provide the house to the mother's estate. So there are several cases pending in relation to this property. The judge in the contempt case has pronounced that the house belongs to the mother's estate. The house needs to be sold, and Mr. Weaver is the administrator of the estate to dictate the sale of the house. On January 28, 2023, Ms. Weaver, the petitioner herein, forged a lease granting herself access to the property. She either forged my client's signature or the father's signature. They are both named Mr. Weaver, Richard Weaver, and they both say they do not sign anything. She used this false lease where she forged a signature to obtain USPS change of address and changed her driver's license fraudulently. On February 28th, she moved her belongings into the residence. On February 28th, my client filed the eviction proceeding that is pending against her. She was served with this proceeding via sheriff on March 6, 2023. On March 10th, 2023, Ms. Weaver filed for this TPO, not after an act of family violence, but after being served an eviction proceeding. My client was served with this TPO on March 17th, 2023, and the evidence will show that between March 10th and March 17th, Ms. Weaver continued to communicate with Mr. Weaver despite the provisions of the ex parte order, showing that she is not fearful of him. There are 4 different open cases right now: probate court, superior court, TPO court, and the eviction case. She has no right to possess the property as an heir until it passes through probate. Only the administrator can make such decisions. She is only using this TPO court as a way to get a leg up in her probate and eviction cases. Her plan of attack through all of these courts is to get Mr. Weaver removed as administrator and take all claims to the house for herself. The evidence will show that she is simply using all avenues of attack against Mr. Weaver as it relates to this house. The evidence will further show that all of these claims raised here today by Ms. Weaver should be litigated in the eviction and/or probate proceeding, not this TPO court. Your Honor, Ms. Weaver's request for a temporary protective order against my client should be denied and dismissed because she cannot show and cannot prove by a preponderance of the evidence that an act of family violence has occurred or that family violence will occur in the future at the hands of my client. Actually, no acts of violence have occurred at all, and my client has never shown or presented himself as being violent and has not had any past incidents of violence. What the evidence, or lack thereof, will show today is that Ms. Weaver is simply using the TPO court to get a leg up in the eviction proceeding. The TPO court was the only way she could think of to get something showing her residency in the home. I am asking that you do not award such behavior and abuse of the court system and dismiss her petition for family violence protective order. On the other hand, we have filed a counter petition for under the stalking statute, OCGA 16-5-90 et al. Her actions.
What's the number?
16-5-90.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's the case number that you filed this counter petition?
Oh, and it's under the same case number.
Oh,
We
that's
filed
not,
a counter petition.
that's not how we do it. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Her actions do amount to stalking and harassment under the Georgia stalking statute. She has just not been able to let go of the fact that her brother has ownership and possession of their mother's home. She has forged her name to a lease amounting to identity theft, showing up to the residence unannounced despite requests to stay away while the probate case is proceeding, entering not just the residence, but Mr. Weaver's personal bedroom while yelling and harassing him, recording him, taunting him, and asking him to record her with her pants off, removing locks from the residence despite being told by police to not tamper with the locks, on multiple occasions parking her car in a manner to block Mr. Weaver from leaving the residence, removing Mr. Weaver's security cameras from the residence, and locking him out of the bathroom with the only running shower water, and asking her boyfriend, children, and friends to visit the residence despite having no legitimate claims to the residence. And finally, the ultimate act of stalking and harassment, filing the instant TPO case against Mr. Weaver. All of these acts amount to stalking and harassment of Mr. Weaver and show a clear pattern of behavior that will only continue to occur and escalate without the court's intervention. Today, we are asking you to dismiss Ms. Weaver's request for a family violence protective order as she will not be able to show that any acts of violence have occurred. 2, we are asking that you do enter a stalking protective order on behalf of my client to prevent future and further harassment and stalking. Thank you.
Okay, before we get started, just so that I'm clear, who's living in the property right now?
Right now, it is Miss Weaver because of the TPO,
Okay,
but she is not a valid resident.
yeah, okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Branch, you can call your first witness.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. And the first witness I would like to call is Miss Myra Weaver. And Miss Weaver, could you please unmute yourself and raise your right hand? And Ms. Weaver, do you swear and affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you. And you can put your hand down. All right, Ms. Weaver. So could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with the respondent in this case?
Prior to all this taking place, we've had a good relationship, even up until me moving into the home. We've always been very close. It's my younger brother. It's only the two of us. Once this has been, so right now we're currently in court for an estate. The house is not in the estate. If you look at the divorce decree, it states in the divorce decree that the only thing that we are responsible for receiving are the proceeds of the house. My father is the only owner of the home.
Okay, and so Ms. Weaver, let me back you up a little bit. When did the house at issue, who is the owner of that home?
My father is the owner of the home.
Okay, and
There is a deed in the paperwork that I provided as well, the last deed given to the house.
okay, and Madam Clerk, could you please share with the gallery Exhibit 8, I believe?
You said 8. I see 1 to 7. Did you do it today?
Yes, I sent them over right before we gave our opening statements.
Okay, it may not have made it into Odyssey. Let me go outside of it. One moment.
Okay, sorry about that.
Just one moment, I'm going to close some blinds.
My father said he can also join to give verification that I'm legally residing in the home.
Okay, thank you. We will check with the clerk if he's in the waiting room.
Okay.
Is this the one you're looking for?
Correct. Thank
Okay.
you. All right, and so Ms. Weaver, do you recognize this document?
Yes,
And is this the deed that you were just referring to that
it is.
related to the house? Okay. And how did you come by acquire this document?
It was in the paperwork and some of the evidence that was provided, and my father also gave it to me previously for prior cases.
So it was in your father's possession and he's the one that provided this document to you?
Yes, yes,
Okay. And based on what you are able to see on the screen here, does this look like a true and accurate copy of the warranty deed related to the property at issue in this case?
yes, it is.
And have you made any alterations or changes to this document before submitting it to the evidence?
No,
Okay, and Your Honor, I'd like to tender Exhibit 8 into evidence.
All right, counsel, any objections?
No objections.
Be admitted without objection.
Okay, and Ms. Weaver, when did your father purchase this home?
1994, I believe.
Okay, and did he own the home outright, or did he have to continue to pay on the mortgage?
He continues to pay on the mortgage. In the divorce decree, which is also provided, it states that he will continue paying the mortgage. My mother is to live in the home until the house is sold, and then she, after any debts are paid, will receive the proceeds.
Okay, and so Ms. Weaver, when did your parents get divorced?
2009, can't remember the exact month, but I have the divorce decree in there as well.
Okay, and that has been sent to the court. I do not know if it's available right now.
April 1st is the date.
Okay, and so based on what you know of that divorce decree, the home at issue was supposed to be sold, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, and the proceeds were supposed to go to both your mother and your father.
correct.
All right, and was the house ever sold?
No, it's not.
Okay, and why has the house not been sold yet?
It hasn't been ruled on. He's just the owner of the home. He's just continued to have the
Okay.
home. I don't know if there's any reason why.
And so is your mother still alive?
She's not.
And when did she pass?
In May of 2009.
Okay, so was that before or after the divorce?
It was 1 month after.
Okay, and did she have a will at the time of her death?
There was no will.
And has anyone attempted to probate her estate?
It hasn't been ruled on yet. We're still in court for that. So it hasn't been probated. No,
Okay, so that is still an open case
It
in
is.
DeKalb County.
it is.
Okay, so do you what is, do you have any ownership in this home, or do you know who is the owner of this home at this point?
The only owner of this home is my father, Richard Dyson Weaver.
Okay. So where were you living prior to filing your TPO?
I was living in 1580 Dixie Street, Southeast Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. And when did you move into the residence that is at issue?
I officially moved in January. My lease is stated for October 2022, but I was unable to gain access to the home until I brought a police officer over to the house. So
Okay. And so you said you had a lease for this property. Who did you sign a lease with in order to gain possession?
my father, Richard Dyson Weaver.
Okay. And when did you execute that document?
Would you say execute? What do you mean?
When did you sign that agreement with your father?
October 27th. I have to look at the date.
Okay. And Madam Clerk, if you could present Exhibit 10, please. And I believe that's in one of the later exhibits as well.
Oh, my father wrote it.
Okay. And Ms. Weaver, is this the lease agreement you were just referencing that you had with your father?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you say when you executed, or when did you sign this agreement?
The date is. I'm not sure it's correct. I'm sorry. Could you just
And
forgive me? So much paperwork to go through.
and if you can look at the document that's showing on the screen, and see if you can identify the date that document was signed or
Signed on, I'm sorry, October 27, 2022.
okay. And is this a true and accurate copy of the lease agreement that you signed with your father?
Yes.
And have you made any alterations to this document before submitting it to the court?
No.
Okay, and now, Your Honor, I'd like to tender Exhibit 10 into the evidence for the petitioner.
All right, council's response.
No objection.
Be admitted without objection. Madam Clerk, if you could just scroll down to the bottom, please.
Okay, and so Ms. Weaver, prior to entering into this lease agreement, is there ever been another point where you lived in that home?
Yes, both the respondent and I grew up together in this house along with my children. They were raised in this house as well.
Okay, and you signed this agreement in October, but when did you officially move into the home?
January 28th, 29th.
Okay, and what happened when you attempted to move into the home?
I was threatened with an axe. He would not let me he would not let me come into the house. Police had to be called, and they let him know that he cannot keep me out of the home. I have mail coming there. I have a lease there. I've lived there before. That I am a resident in that house.
Okay, and so tell me about what happened when you showed up to the house and you claim the respondent had an axe with him.
I pulled into the driveway. I guess I pulled in too far for the garage to come down. He came outside. He picked up an axe. Asked me. Well, first he asked me what I was doing. I asked if we could speak. I had all the paperwork, the lease, everything I needed to talk to him. He said, "Sure, let's speak outside." I said, "No, let's go into the home." And he said, "No." He then picked up an axe, and I asked him if he was going to hit me with this axe. What he planned on doing? I'm not posing any threat to him. And he said, "I cannot enter the house." And that was just, and he just kept the axe above his head. I asked him to put the axe down before the police came, so it wouldn't be an issue. But he just let me know that I cannot enter the home, and he would not put the axe down. And he did threaten to strike me if I did not move back out of the driveway and remove myself from the property.
Okay, and Madam Clerk, could you please present Exhibit 4? And I submitted an updated version of that exhibit. So it just contains more context for the foundation. Okay. And does this has 2 pages to it? Yes, okay, perfect. So Miss Weaver, is this a photograph of the day when you moved or attempted to move into the home? I'm at
Yeah.
issue. Okay, and when did you take this photograph?
January 29th.
Okay. And have you made any changes or alterations to this exhibit?
No.
Okay, Madam Clerk, I would like to submit exhibit 4 into petitioners or tender exhibit 4 into petitioner's evidence.
I apologize, I was on mute. Attorney's response
No objection.
to be admitted without objection.
All right. And so, Ms. Weaver, were you able to move in on the 29th when you took that photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and so how did you end up getting into the home?
I just walked in. The police made him allow me access.
Okay, and so after you moved into the home, what are some of the things that occurred that led to you filing this TPO?
Once I moved in, he made it very clear that I was not welcome and neither were my children. He took all the doors off the bedrooms, all the doors off the hinges. There's video and photos of that. He removed the thermostat off the wall so I could not change the temperature, keeping the house cold. There's video evidence of that as well, and a text thread that he provided with that information in there. Harassing my guests, harassing me, recording us against our will, just making threats of making us uncomfortable and that we don't belong there and this is not our home.
Okay.
And there has been other acts of violence. We got into a dispute towards the end.
So let me stop you right there and then we can move on to some of the other acts
Okay.
that you referenced in your petition. So Madam Clerk, could you please bring up petitioners exhibit 5 and 6? And Ms. Weaver, who took this photograph?
I took this photograph.
Okay, and when was this photograph taken?
Um, it was taken on February 2nd.
That's February 2nd. Okay, and what is this photograph depicting?
The thermostat that he removed off the wall so I cannot adjust the temperature to a reasonable temperature.
Okay, and that have you made any alterations or changes to this photograph?
No.
Okay, and Your Honor, I would like to tender petitioner's exhibit 5 into evidence, please.
Attorney's response
No objection.
be admitted without objection.
Okay, and then Madam Clerk, if you could show exhibit 6. And Ms. Weaver, did you take this photograph as well?
I did. This is my bedroom. Missing the door. Missing the
And
door.
when did you take this photograph?
That was taken on February 2nd as well.
Okay, and have you made any changes or doctored this photograph in any way?
No,
Okay. And Your Honor, I'd like to tender Petitioner's Exhibit 6 into evidence.
All right, response?
No objection.
Will be admitted without objection.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Weaver, so those photographs were taken in early February.
yes.
Okay, and how often were you experiencing issues with parts of the property and fixtures within the property
Daily.
throughout living there daily? And
Every day.
what other so did he do that only to your possessions?
No, he did it to my children's rooms as well.
Okay. And are there any other fixtures or parts of the house that were damaged similar to the photos in Exhibit 5 and 6?
All the doorknobs were removed. All the handles, all the doors have been taken off the hinges, but that's the only thing other than my car in the driveway.
Okay. And so tell me about your car in the driveway. What is significant about your vehicle in this this case?
There have been multiple times where he's blocked my vehicle in, and he also moved a tree-sized log in the driveway to keep me from coming down in the driveway. And I ended up parking in the driveway, and the log was there. When I backed up, it damaged my vehicle.
Okay.
It was basically trying to keep me from leaving the driveway, leaving the house.
All right. And Madam Clerk, could you please share Petitioner's Exhibit 14 and
Was that sent today before?
that was sent today.
Okay, hold on.
And Ms. Weaver, did you take this photograph as well?
I did.
And when was this photograph taken?
It was taken on March 10th.
Okay. And what, or have you made any changes to this photograph?
No,
Taking it. And Your Honor, I would like to tender Petitioner's Exhibit 14 into evidence.
Any objections?
No.
All right, it'll be admitted without objection.
Okay. And so, Ms. Weaver, what is significant about this photograph?
I'm sorry.
Why did you take this photograph specifically?
My vehicle was blocked in the driveway.
Okay. And so what vehicle is yours in this photograph?
The GMC, the black or gray GMC Terrain in the driveway.
Okay. And do you know whose vehicle, the white, or who owns the white vehicle?
The respondent, Richard Weaver.
Okay. And Madam Clerk, if you could move on to Petitioner's Exhibit 13 now, I believe. Yes.
Okay, I'm not showing a 13. Did you send that after the last one?
I believe so.
Okay, let me check into another system one moment. Okay, we don't see a 13 at this time.
Okay, I circle. I was sitting my draft. I just sent it. Sorry about that.
No problem. Did you send it to the CSC or send it to me?
I sent it to CSC.
Okay, I'll wait on it.
Okay, and so Miss Weaver, this is also a photograph that you took,
Yes,
and this is the damage to your vehicle from you said a log that damaged your bumper.
yes,
And when did you take this photograph?
March 18th.
And have you made any changes or alterations to this photograph?
No, sir.
Okay, and Your Honor, I would like to tender Petitioner's Exhibit 13 into
All
evidence.
right. Any objections?
No objections.
All right, admitted without objection.
Okay, and so Ms. Weaver, apart from the petitioner blocking in your vehicle and removing fixtures from the home, were there any other reasons you decided to file a TPO?
Yes, we got into a physical dispute where he struck me in the face with a wooden sign
Okay,
and slammed
and
his door.
you said you got hit with a wooden sign.
Yes, and my arm was slammed in the door a few times.
Okay, and when did this incident occur?
Um, on March 13th.
March 13th. And so what happened as a result of the altercation between you and the respondent?
The police were called. They came out, issued a police report. It said that my witnesses were my children, so they weren't credible. But he did recommend that I take out a protection order and gave me the information for that. So I did.
Okay. And Madam Clerk, could you please share the Petitioner's Exhibit 2? And that document should have been sent yesterday or this morning. Okay. And so, Ms. Weaver, is this the incident report
Yes,
that you were just referring to?
yes, sir.
And that was taken on the day of the altercation with your brother?
Yes.
Okay. And have you made any alterations or changes to this document?
No.
And Your Honor, I'd like to tender Petitioner's Exhibit 2 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
Right, admitted without objection.
All right. And so, Madam Clerk, if you could scroll down to the second page. So it seems that they are referencing a few some of the damage that occurred to the home as well as the altercation. So could you tell us a little bit more about the doorknobs that you mentioned in your testimony earlier?
Some of the doorknobs were removed. The bathroom locks were taken off as well. So I was asking him to please put the bathroom knobs knobs back on the bathroom so we could have privacy when we're in the restroom. He refused to do so. As I was speaking to him, he walked away, walked into his room, and I tried to talk to him to ask him to put the knobs back on. And that's when I was struck and my arm was slammed in the door.
Okay.
And
And
at that point, the police were called, and there was no other communication between us that day.
okay. And when the police arrived, was anyone arrested at that time?
No,
And what was one of the reasons you were given that there were no arrests that day?
the officer that came out has been the same officer that's been coming out to every time that the police have been called. So he understands the pattern that's been going on. So that was just his recommendation.
And how many times had the police been called?
Probably 3 or 4. There's been several misuse of police services. I have a video that him speaking to that about him calling the respondent calling the police for civil matters that are not crimes.
Okay. And you said the police had been called about 3 times. And
Yes.
what time frame were those calls made?
From the time I moved in until he was removed from the home.
Okay, so sometime between the end of January to early to mid-March.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in the police report, it references that the officer did not observe any visible injuries. Did you sustain any injuries from this altercation?
Yes, I had bruising on my arm from the door being slammed on it.
Okay. And Madam Clerk, could you please share Petitioner's Exhibit 11? That photograph would have been sent this afternoon. And Madam Clerk, if we could zoom out a little bit. Okay, and so Ms. Weaver, is this a photograph that you took?
My daughter took the photograph. She was also there during the incident.
Okay, and so who is in this photograph?
I am.
Okay, and do you recall when this photograph was taken?
um, March 17th.
Okay, and why was this photograph taken?
So there was bruising on my arm, and I wanted to make sure that I had evidence of proof that this happened.
Okay, and have you made any changes to this photograph before submitting it to the court?
No.
Okay, and Your Honor, I'd like to tender Petitioner's Exhibit 11 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, admitted without objection.
Okay, and the police report mentioned that there was no visible injuries on the day of the incident. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
But those bruises, why did you take those photographs a couple days later?
Because the bruises weren't there to begin with. I mean, when the officer came out, it had just happened. So bruises hadn't formed on my arm yet. But when I did see that there were bruises, so my daughter saw them actually. And I know it was in the same spot. So I went ahead and took photos so I could make sure that I documented the incident.
Okay, and that is an area that you showed the officers at the time
Yes.
of when they arrived on the scene.
Yes.
Okay. And so following that incident on the 13th, when did you decide to file a TPO against your brother?
That after that incident.
Okay. And so why did you decide to file a TPO at all?
Um, since I moved in the house, the retaliation has just gotten worse. It's been every day. And I'm at a point where I'm just concerned about my children and my safety. I thought maybe it would cool down after moving in, but it has not. It's only gotten worse. My respondent has yet to cease any of these actions. So I'm just concerned about our safety. And once it became physical, at this point, I don't know what his level of retaliation. He does not want us in the house. Once my father gave us the right to move in the house, it has been nothing but issues. And I'm concerned about his retaliation moving forward, especially once it became physical.
Okay. And do you feel, or in your opinion, how does this TPO relate to any of the other pending cases related to this property?
It doesn't. I don't know that this TPO relates to the property at all, to be honest with you. I didn't have an issue sharing the home with my brother at all. I don't have an issue that he's the one that's taking everything to court. So I've never had any desire or issue with anything that's taken place. I just wanted to be able to reside in the home as my right. And once I moved into the house, he had a problem with that. He's made that very clear. So threatening my ability to live here peacefully and safely is a concern of mine.
Okay. And do you believe that this type of behavior will continue?
I do. If he, at this, especially now that there's been a protection order and he was removed, the amount of anger and how upset he is coming back into this house is concerning for me, to be honest with you. Especially since all these actions were taking place prior to him being removed. I can only imagine the magnitude of what he'll do once he returns.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Weaver. I have no further questions.
All right, Cross.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Weaver, you signed that lease that we all talked, that your attorney presented, right?
Yes,
And you signed Richard Weaver's name. We don't know if that's referring to your father or your brother, but you made that signature, didn't you?
no, I did not.
See, you're under oath, and you are
Yes.
telling this court that you have not committed forgery
No,
or identity theft.
no,
You've moved some of your stuff into the property in February of this year, right?
correct.
But Mr. Weaver had indicated to you that you were not to do that.
Okay, he has no legal authority to make that decision. I was granted legal authority through the owner of the home.
Yes or no? He told you not to move into the property,
He did.
but you moved in anyway.
I did.
You moved some of your stuff in anyway.
I moved all of my items in the house and my children and myself. Yes.
And you invited your ex-boyfriend over.
No.
Your ex-boyfriend's never been to the property?
Oh, he's been to the property. I thought you meant to live there. Yes, he's visited multiple times.
And you just told me that you moved your stuff in February, right?
Okay. Yes.
But the axe incident where you alleged that he threatened you with an axe, that took place in January.
Correct.
So that was before you lived there.
No, I lived there. I had moved my stuff in. That's what you asked me.
So you
My
lived there
son-
without moving your stuff in?
I did. I was still moving out of my old place. My son was already here.
But all of this was against Mr. Weaver's express statements to you to not move in.
Yes,
And he's asked you to leave since then, right?
multiple times.
And you're just ignoring him?
He's a tenant in the house like I am. He has no right to do that. So yes,
And he's told you that the lease is fake?
he has said that.
And he's told you that you don't have residency there?
He has said that as well.
And you've tampered with the property as well, haven't you?
I have not.
You haven't removed locks?
I have changed them and provided a key. Yes.
So you've tampered with the property as well?
Okay, well then, yes.
And you've removed his security cameras, isn't that right?
No.
You never removed the security camera?
The security cameras are still there, still in place right now. I
Because you
covered
put them back.
Yes.
So you did remove them.
No, his cameras are still there. I took one camera down earlier and put it back up there, yes, and I returned it to him as the officer asked, but he still has cameras in that same space and at the door.
As an officer asked you to do. So an officer told you to put the security camera back.
He did.
And there's an eviction case pending against you, right?
Yes.
And that's just pissed you off, right?
No,
No, that hasn't made you angry?
not at all.
So you didn't file this request for a family violence petition in retaliation to the eviction proceeding?
I did not. I know the eviction proceeding holds no weight because he's not the owner, so it doesn't bother me. I think it's a waste of time.
Mr. Weaver has never been violent with you, has he?
He has.
He's never hit you.
He has.
When did he hit you?
On March, the day the police officer came out and he struck me in the face with a sign.
He's never slapped you.
He hit me with a sign, so no, he didn't slap me.
He's never choked you.
No.
He's never scratched you. He's never thrown you to the floor.
No, he's never done any of those things that you're mentioning, no.
And you're not afraid of him, are you?
I am concerned for my safety, yes.
And you were texting with him the day you filed this TPO, right?
I was.
Asking him to coach swim lessons with you?
I asked him if he wanted a job, yes.
You asked him to coach swim lessons with you, isn't that right?
No, I asked him if he wanted a coaching job because I felt he needed that. I think my brother's depressed, but okay.
Madam Clerk, if you could re-pull Respondent's Exhibit or Petitioner's Exhibit 13. And this is the photo that you said you took of damage from a tree log, right?
Correct.
But there's no picture of the tree log.
I guess I didn't think to capture that. I just wanted to capture the damage of the vehicle.
So you can't prove how this damage occurred to your vehicle.
I can.
But there's no picture, so how can you prove it?
I believe I have it on a different phone. Actual pictures of the log in the driveway on more than one day.
Okay. And Madam Clerk, if you could please pull Petitioner's Exhibit 2.
One moment.
Mm-hmm.
I have to.
Thank you. If you could scroll down to page 2. So it states here, Ms. Weaver, that no visible injuries were observed. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no?
Yes,
Okay. And there were no arrests made.
correct.
In fact, there's been no arrests made anytime the police have been called to the residence. Isn't that right?
Correct.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, any redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor. Ms. Weaver, you said that you had changed some locks on the premises. Is that right?
I did, yes.
And were you instructed by anyone to perform that task?
Not instructed. I was told by the officer that I have the legal right, and I did give the respondent a key in front of the officer, and I also have video provided with that as well.
Okay, and the police have, or this house has been contested between you and the respondent and the rest of your family for many years now. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, and since you moved in, the police have been called several times.
yes.
And at any point, have the police asked you to leave their premises?
No,
And You said in your direct that you had a lease agreement with your father. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Are you aware of any other lease agreements that your father signed with other people?
I believe the respondent had a month-to-month lease in 2018, but I have not actually seen it for myself.
Okay. And are you aware of any actions taken to remove your brother from the premises?
Yes, there was a eviction filed by my father, who's the owner, and that documentation was provided as well.
Okay. Now, 1 second. Okay, and you were served with a dispossessory warrant by your brother, isn't that true?
Correct.
And when was that done?
Um, I'm sorry, I could find the paperwork. It was. I have to find it. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, bear with me 1 moment.
No, that is fine. Okay.
Okay, that was done on the 28th of February.
28th of February. Okay. And Madam Clerk, could you please present Respondent's Exhibit 5? Okay, and is this the dispossessory action that was taken against you by your brother?
Yes,
Okay, and you recognize this document?
I do.
And is this look similar to the dispossessory action that you were served with in that case?
Yes.
Okay, and Your Honor, I'd like to tender Respondent's Exhibit 5 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
And without objection.
Okay, and you said this was filed on the 28th of February?
Yes.
Okay, and this is because you were living in the home at that time?
Yes.
Okay, and when did you sustain property damage while living in the home?
When did I sustain it?
Correct.
Um, in March. There's different dates. Are you referring to something specific?
Just in general.
In March, I mean, since I've been there, February, March.
Okay, and then also, when did you sustain the alleged injuries from that altercation?
March 17th, I believe. Let me look at the date. March 13th.
Okay, and so all these injuries and damage to property occurred while you were living with the respondent?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, any recross?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Branch, do you have any other witnesses?
I believe if Michael or Richard Weaver Senior is in the gallery, I believe he's available to testify today.
All right, Madam Clerk.
I see someone with the iPhone. Let me bring him in and see if that's the person. Is that Mr. Hello, is this Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Judge.
All right, Mr. Branch, you can swear your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, hold on.
Hi, Mr. Weaver. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I have a poor internet. I'm gonna go outside of the building I'm in, but yes.
Okay. And once you are able to stand still, I need to swear you in. So, Your Honor, I just asked for a few minutes while he gets to a more comfortable position.
I can hear.
Okay, well then, could you just stop and raise your right hand for me? All right, and Mr. Weaver, do you swear and affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you, and you can put your hand down. And could you please state your name for the record?
Richard Dyson Weaver.
Okay, and what is your relationship to the parties in this case?
Michael Weaver is my son. Myra Yvonne Weaver is my daughter.
Okay, and there is a property that is in dispute in this home. And what is your connection to the property in this case?
I am the owner.
Okay, and when did you buy that home?
Probably 25 years ago, something like that.
Okay, and had you ever transferred an ownership interest in the home to either of your children?
Absolutely not.
And have you ever signed any lease agreements to allow others to stay in that home?
Yes.
And who are some of the people that you have leased that property out to?
Bobby Schultz was the first person after the children's mother has been deceased since 2009. So Bobby Schultz for 5 years, and then Richard Dyson Weaver for about 5 years. And his lease was ended about a year ago, and he is staying in the property against my wishes.
Okay. And did you ever sign a lease agreement with your daughter?
I sent Myra a text because I'm away, and I emailed her that she has my permission to stay in the property along with her 2 children. And I specifically asked that Richard Weaver not be allowed to stay in the property because he's behaving dangerously and irrationally. And we are in another court proceeding. The judge is probably going to make a decision shortly. The kids are the heirs of their deceased mother's property. Not property, but the divorce stated that they received the proceeds after the home is sold. So a superior court judge is about to rule that the property be sold and that the kids get equal share of the proceeds. And that ruling hasn't come down yet, but it's about to in a matter of days.
And how long has that case been going on for you, did you say?
A year. We've been in court a year. I tried to evict Richard, but the superior court judge asked me to wait, not to send mixed messages until she's able to make a ruling. She said she's going to rule that the kids get the proceeds from the sale of the home, and she's going to decide on who gets to sell the home and all of that. So Richard and Myra were there together, but Richard behaving horribly, along with several police reports and wielding axes and taking doors off and doing all kinds of stuff to the thermostat. And so I asked Richard to stop and, that we're going to sell the house, but it's just too dangerous for him to live there. So my daughter has my permission with her 2 kids. Michael Weaver does not have my permission. And the judge is going to rule that the house be sold immediately and the proceeds be divided.
And when did you give your daughter permission to live in that home?
Oh, at least 2 months ago.
Okay. And you said that was sent over text?
And then I text her just recently as she was going to court today. I text her because I definitely don't want Richard to be allowed back in the home. And we're under Superior Court orders that we got to sell the home. So I just don't want anybody to get hurt. Things happen. I mean, the axe wielding, calling the police daily. This is just not acceptable. And I'm asking the court to please allow Myra, who is behaving reasonably, along with her children, to live there, and Richard to stay off the property. And very soon, within days, if his lawyer will stop postponing it, we can get a ruling where the house is going to be sold. And I'm also asking that Myra become the administrator of her deceased mother's estate.
Okay.
And
that's a little outside of the scope of this court proceeding. But I appreciate your testimony. I have no further questions.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
One moment, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you're going to be subject to cross-examination. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mr. Weaver.
Good afternoon.
So you sent your daughter, Myra, a text about residing in the residence, right?
Yes,
You've never signed a lease with her.
that's my lease for her.
Is a text. You've never signed a document.
Well, that's my legal, I'm the owner. So to me, that's my legal document, lease, however you want to say it. I just don't want the court to, decide something that's dangerous, saying that Myra does not have my permission to live in the house. You're looking at me. I'm the owner. She has my permission. Richard does not. I tried to evict him. He's behaving dangerously, Your Honor. And Judge Berry in the Superior Court is about to rule that he doesn't own the house. He never will. She's going to rule that they're to receive the proceeds after the sale of the house. His mother is deceased. I'm the only living owner. And,
But there's a current
the circumstance.
contempt case against you in the Superior Court, isn't that right?
That's correct. And the judge has said I'm not in contempt. She's going to rule that I follow the wording of the divorce that was done in 2009. Yes, ma'am.
And the whole issue here is who possesses the house, but that's being litigated in the Superior Court, isn't that right?
Not necessarily. She's only litigating the contempt of divorce, which I'm not in contempt according to Judge Berry. She's going to rule that the divorce says I sell the property and divide the proceeds between Myra and Richard. The only thing that she's finishing litigating, his lawyer has postponed this thing like 15 times, but that's another story. The only thing she's litigating now is if I'm to get anything back as the only owner, living owner of the property out of the proceeds. And then Myra and Richard will get the rest. Myra has my permission. I was going to evict Richard because of the way he acted, but the Judge Berry of the Superior Court asked me to wait, not to send mixed messages until she's able to make a ruling, which she's took briefs a couple of days ago, and she's going to make a ruling, the summary judgment based on the briefs, and she's doing that as we speak. And so I'm asking you not to allow Richard back in there because we don't want to send mixed messages. He does not own it, neither does Myra. I own it. They are the descendants, and they're and there's nothing in the estate right now. But the judge is going to rule that the proceeds from the sale of the home, which hasn't occurred, go into the estate. And Richard is fibbing to the police and perhaps you that he owns the house. And I just don't want you to believe that. And Myra's the only one and her children that have my permission as the only living owner to live in the property.
Okay. No further questions.
All right.
All right.
Any redirect, Mr. Branch?
Yes, just a few questions. So, Mr. Weaver, are you aware that there is a lease agreement in place that allows your daughter to stay in the residence?
I've given her my permission. I sent a text. She told me that she was going there. I told the police. I've called the police. I told Judge Barry. I've told Frank Podesta, his lawyer. I've told my lawyer. So I'm just trying to be honest, and I don't want wording. And this is me. I'm here. I'm telling you what it is. Myra's the only one that has permission. Anything else would be dangerous and outside of what we're trying to accomplish here. So yes, I know all the whole time that she was going over there. She changed the locks. She's the descendant of her deceased mother, and I'm giving her the right to live there right now, here and right now. I don't know what else she would need, but yes, I know about it. I agree with it, and Richard is behaving terribly, and there's plenty of police reports, and I can't allow any of my children to get hurt.
Let me cut you off there for a second. Is there ever a point where you authorized her to document her ability to stay in that home?
Yes.
Yes, and Madam Clerk, could you please share Exhibit 10 with the court? All right, and this exhibit has already been introduced or tendered into evidence. But Mr. Weaver, is this? Did you recognize this document?
I don't have my glasses. I can't see it, but I believe it's probably.
Well, if you aren't able to see it, I wouldn't want you to testify to what it actually is. So, Madam Clerk, you could remove this from the screen. And you,
Mr. Branch, the witness is on mute and he was talking.
Thank you. Mr. Weaver, could you please unmute yourself?
All right, I'm unmuted.
Okay. And
yeah, as I was saying, Myra has my permission. She's had it for several months. This is me. You're looking at me. We're in court. I've raised my hand. She has my permission to live there. I don't, lease or no lease or whatever. She has my permission.
I want to focus on a few specific details. And then you also mentioned that you attempted to evict the respondent. Is that correct?
Yes. And Judge Barry said, Weaver, do a stay on Richard's eviction. He's lived there illegally or lived there against my permission for a year. She asked me to put a stay on it.
So what was the basis for filing that eviction warrant?
He was suing me for writing a lease in the first place, saying that he owns the home, which is incorrect. He is the descendant of the deceased mothers, and they are going to receive the proceeds of the home, never the deed, once the home is sold. And Judge Barry is doing that. So I evicted him because he starts suing me for writing him a lease in the first place. So, and then he's been staying there as a holdover tenant. And Judge Barry of the Superior Court understands all that. She said, don't do anything rash right now. Don't put Richard out. I get that he's wielding axes and doing all this stuff and chasing your daughter and grandkids around. I mean, my lawyer's saying this. I don't get to talk to Judge Barry. But she said she's going to make a ruling within days. And so I'm just, let's do a stay or whatever I did in Richard's eviction case. Don't let Richard go back in there and then a fight breaks out and everybody says, why didn't you say something? This is Dad. I'm saying it now. This is dangerous. Let Judge Barry make the ruling, and then I'll split the proceeds up as the Superior Court orders. I just don't want.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Weaver. I have no further questions.
Any requests?
Right.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Weaver, you don't actually reside in the home, right?
No.
So you weren't present when the alleged axe incident took place?
I saw film of it and viewed police reports and saw the film.
Yes or no, you were there?
No, I was not there.
So this is all based on just what your daughter's telling you?
and police reports and film that she sent me.
Yes or no? This is based on what your daughter's telling you.
No,
No.
based on police reports and film.
And you weren't present at the incident where she claims to have received the bruises on her arms, were you?
No,
And you were never present when the police were actually called?
not on her behalf. They were called on me when I tried to enter the home to take pictures for Judge Barry. Richard called the police on me and told him he was the owner, which is
Well,
not
I'm
correct.
talking about the incidences that Miss Weaver, your daughter's talking about when the police were called. You weren't present for that?
No.
No. Okay, that's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Branch, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
All right, may this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let's not be dangerous and do the right thing. Judge Barry is about to decide on this proceeds given to these kids. Let's not put these kids in a dangerous situation.
Mr.
Thank you,
Weaver,
Mr. Weaver. You're excused, sir. All right, any other witnesses, Mr. Branch?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mullis, you may go ahead and call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I call Mr. Richard Weaver, the respondent. Good afternoon, Mr. Weaver. Please raise your right hand. Do you promise or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, you can put your hand down. Please state your full name.
Richard Michael Weaver.
Okay. And what is your relation to the petitioner?
She is my sister.
She's not your current or past spouse?
No,
She's not your child or parent?
no,
She's not your step parent or stepchild or foster parent or foster child?
no,
And she's not even validly your roommate.
correct.
Tell us about the history of the residence. We've heard a lot about this property. How did you come to live there?
Well, in in about 2004, I had moved away to college. I was at college for a little while. My mother was staying in the property. I moved back in 2012 at that time, and I stayed in Atlanta for about a few years, and then in 2017, I moved into the property under a lease agreement with Richard Dyson Weaver. Just to back up a little bit to tell you the kind of the history. In 2008 and 2009, my mother and father did go through a divorce. In 2009, I was actually living with my mother at that
Attorney
time.
Mullis, I'm going to have to ask you to please keep this to what we're here on today. What happened in 2009 is not relevant to today.
Sure,
Thank you.
sure. So, Mr. Weaver, recently, how did you come to live in the residence?
In 2017, I signed a lease with my father. I moved into the property, and that's when I became a tenant of the property.
Okay. And there's a current probate court case related to this property.
Correct.
And you're the administrator of the estate.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Clerk, could you please pull Respondents Exhibit 1? Mr. Weaver, is this the letters of administration that names you administrator of the estate?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it appear to be a valid and accurate copy?
It does.
Have you made any changes to it?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor, I'd like to tender Respondents Exhibit 1 into evidence.
Any objection, Mr. Branch?
No objection.
Committed without objection.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Where does the probate court case currently stand?
It is in a pending mode until we finish the contempt case in Superior Court.
And when did your sister, the petitioner, when did she start expressing interest in the property?
When I first told her that we were going to enter into the probate case, so around 2019, 2020.
When did she forge the fake lease?
I believe the lease says in October of 2022.
And what did she do next?
She also used that lease to change her address on the driver's license, also the address for her mail USPS address, and then also showed that and all that information to the police to be able to claim residency and move into the property.
Has she showed up to the property unannounced?
Yes,
How many times?
a minimum of 3 times.
Does she have residency rights to the home?
No,
Have you filed an eviction proceeding?
I have.
What is the status of that case?
We have a hearing set for April 25th.
And when did you file that eviction proceeding?
I filed that on February 28th.
And when was she served?
She was served on March 6th, 2023.
I would ask that Madam Clerk pull Respondent's Exhibit 5. It's already been entered into evidence. So this document has already been entered into evidence, but you see here where it says Marshal Entry of Service, date of service, March 6th, 2023.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And when was this TPO filed?
On March 10th, 2023.
So only 4 days later.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever been violent with Miss Weaver?
No, ma'am.
Have you ever been violent with anyone?
No, ma'am.
Explain to me what happened. The picture, I don't recall the exhibit number, but the picture of you holding an axe.
Yes, I left my garage door open. I was doing some yard work and my sister came and pulled into the driveway and parked in a manner where I could not close down the garage. I picked up the axe. I was getting ready to go finish the yard work. As she did say that, she said that she explained she wanted to talk. I told her that was fine, that she could just please back up the car from the garage so I could close down the garage and that I would come out and speak with her. There was no threats of any axe. When she did ask me to put the axe down, I did put down the axe because I was the one who actually called the police and I didn't want any questions raised, but there was never any threats. And then when she did ask and she said she felt threatened, I did place down the axe.
And the incident where she claims to receive bruises on her arm from being shut in a door, what happened there?
What happened was she stole my security camera and I saw it on my phone when I was watching the incident. I came home, questioned her about it. The entire incident that she said was over some bathroom locks that she had changed and put a key lock on. I attempted just to walk away from her at that point because the argument was escalating and I didn't want things to go any further. I tried to walk into my bedroom. At that point, she grabbed the closest thing to the bedroom door, which was a sign that I had because I have all my items packed up close to my bedroom door just so I could watch them. She grabbed the sign, came after me with the sign. I tried to shut the door and then the sign broke off in the middle of the door. While she had the sign in there, she stuck her arm in there and to prevent me from being able to close and lock the door. And that's when there was I guess an issue or something that happened with the arm.
Were you purposefully trying to shut her arm in the door?
No, I was trying to get away from her.
She followed you into your bedroom?
Yes, and bathroom.
And bathroom. Did you threaten to hit her with the axe?
No.
Was the clear safety covering still on it?
Yes.
And you can see that in the picture?
Correct.
What about the removal of the thermostat?
The thermostat was removed for a period of hours before she ever moved any items in and before she ever came to the residence. I did have to reset it for maintenance purposes. And also I was trying to just mitigate how much the expenses of the house were going to be because they were raising the temperature up to about 76 degrees. I did replace the thermostat within 4 hours and the thermostat's been on there ever since after that replacement.
Okay. Do you feel like your sister is stalking and harassing you?
Yes.
Why?
There's just been a series of escalation of events. It started with calling my father and asking him to start the eviction case before we even started the probation case. There's been harassing texts. She's forged my name on a lease. There's been identity theft. She's asked the police to arrest me based on false accusations. She's also having me wrongfully evicted and removed me from the property where I do make a living and I do reside. There's been several intimidation where she brought in several different individuals, including her ex-boyfriend, to not only intimidate me, but to also displace and move my property around. She's taunted me, and she's also done several different name calling and just several threats and harassments over the course of these several months.
Does she block your car in the driveway so you can't leave?
Yes, there's been several instances where she has blocked my vehicle in the driveway, once overnight where I was not able to leave or use my vehicle in any manner. I did ask her several different times and also explain that this was an emergency, but there has been several times where she has blocked my vehicle, yes.
Madam Clerk, if you would please pull Respondent's Exhibit 4. Mr. Weaver, is this your vehicle or is it her vehicle?
That is her vehicle, the GMC.
And the little corner of the white vehicle that we can see, that's yours?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Madam Clerk, could you scroll down to the next photo? And again, these are your two vehicles?
No, that's my sister's vehicle, and my vehicle is the white vehicle.
And she's parked in front of you?
Correct.
And Madam Clerk, if you would scroll to the last photo. Is this her vehicle?
Yes.
It's parked in front of the garage?
Correct. My vehicle's in the garage.
Your Honor, did you take these photos?
Yes.
And do they appear to be accurate copies?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to tender Respondent's Exhibit 4.
Any objections, Mr. Branch?
No, Your Honor.
Committed without objection.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are you asking for the court's intervention today to help prevent her continuing to act in this way?
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Branch Cross.
Yes. One second, Your Honor. Mr. Weaver, you said your sister had blocked you in front of, or blocked your car in the garage on several occasions. Is that true?
Correct.
In those photographs, it seemed that there were multiple people standing outside the vehicles. Is that right?
There was me and my sister.
So in that, where she parked her car is a driveway. Is that true?
Correct.
And in some of those photographs, the garage was closed too, correct?
In one of the photographs, correct.
Okay. And you park your car in a driveway, isn't that true?
No, I normally park my car in the garage when possible.
Okay, so, but generally, people that park their vehicle at a home, park it in either the garage or the driveway, true?
I'm not sure how to answer that, but.
Okay. And you said you had a lease agreement to stay at the property?
There was a lease agreement, yes.
Do you have that available for us to review today?
I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure I probably have it in documents. I'm not sure where it is though.
You didn't think it would be important to show the court that you have legal ownership or possession of that home?
You said, do I think it would be important?
Yes,
Yes.
but you didn't bring it today.
I have the document. I would just have to go find it. I do have it though.
So you didn't bring it today.
I have the document. I would just have to find it in the paperwork.
And you said you had legal ownership of this property, right?
No,
So you do not have legal ownership of the property?
I'm the administrator of the estate. I never said I had legal ownership of the property.
Okay. And the lease agreement that you had with your father has expired according to those terms, isn't that true?
The case is being litigated in Superior Court. I don't know how to legally answer what the status of the lease is.
And did the lease agreement you signed with your father have an end date?
It has a month-to-month provision in it.
Okay, and have you, who makes the payments on the home
As far as
for the mortgage or to stay in the home?
Richard Weaver,
So your father?
yes. There's the first mortgage is ended, but he's been making the payments to the mortgage.
Okay. And you don't have a deed to this house, do you?
When you say I don't have a deed, what do you mean?
Do you have a deed to this property?
Like the paper of it? Like I have the copy of the deed,
A deed with your name on it?
not with my name on it, no.
Okay. And the owner of the home said that your sister could stay in that property. Is that true?
That's what he testified or said.
And you attempted to remove her anyways.
Correct, I have an eviction case.
And you removed the thermostat off the wall to save energy?
For maintenance and for a period of 4 hours.
Well, you said you were trying to conserve energy, right?
I said also they were turning up the thermostat to 76 degrees. So I did want to mitigate expenses.
And you took the doors off my client's bedroom.
Yes.
Was that to save energy?
No, she was displacing a lot of my property. Her and the other guests that she had invited over just began moving all of my property around the first day that she came. So as an effort to mitigate my own personal property to make sure that I had time to kind of move it into an area, I did remove the doors for a period of 24 hours and then reinstalled them before she ever came and moved any of her personal items in. So I did that in response to her actually trespassing on my personal property. And again, it was only for a period of 24 hours, maybe 48.
And the police have been called to the residence on several occasions.
Correct.
They've never removed your sister from the home.
No, they have not.
And but you've made several attempts to remove her from the home yourself.
No.
No?
No.
Okay. And your father has tried to remove you from the home, correct?
Yes.
And I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, any redirect?
Just briefly. Mr. Weaver, when the police have come out to the home, have any arrests been made?
No.
So you've never been arrested for family violence?
No, ma'am.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Do you have any other witnesses?
No.
Okay. I'll go ahead with closings at this time. Mr. Branch, do you want to reserve?
I would, Your Honor.
All right, Attorney Mullis.
Thank you, Your Honor. The bottom line of this case is that these issues need to be dealt with in the probate, contempt, eviction, and/or dispossessory cases, not the TPO court. Ms. Weaver's filing of this TPO is an abuse of the court's powers, and quite frankly, she hasn't met her burden of proof. She hasn't even validly proved that she and Mr. Weaver reside together, meaning that she doesn't have standing to bring this action in the first place. Her request for a temporary protective order under the family violence statute should be dismissed and denied because she has not shown by a preponderance of the evidence that any acts of family violence have occurred or that family violence is likely to occur again in the future at the hands of my client. We've heard a lot about this property today, and the bottom line is that any award of the property to either party is an improper use of the court's TPO powers. This case needs to be litigated in these other cases. There's a superior court case, there's a probate court case, there's a contempt case, there's eviction cases pending. We heard testimony today of an alleged incident where Mr. Weaver picked up an axe in his own home, in his own garage. He picked it up and draped it over his shoulders. It was not picked up in a threatening manner. He did not threaten to swing it at her. He did not threaten to use it on her. And the plastic covering that covers the end of the axe was still on it. You can see that in the picture. So this is not an act of family violence. In addition, the other incident that Miss Weaver alleges is that she received bruises on her arm by sticking her arm in the door and the door shutting on it. Again, this was not a threat. She got her arm stuck in the door because she was attempting to follow Mr. Weaver into his own bedroom and bathroom in his private residence, his private space in the residence. She attempted to stick a sign in the door. The sign broke off. She then stuck her arm in the door shut on it. It was not a threat. It was not an act of family violence. And she has shown no evidence today that any of these acts will, if they are acts of family violence, that they will continue to occur or occur again in the future. She has shown no evidence today of that. Mr. Richard D. Weaver, the party's father, testified and was not clear that there is a lease granting Miss Weaver access to the property. He never gave a clear answer on those questions from either myself or Mr. Branch. And thus, she can't prove that she actually resides there. So she has no standing to bring this case in the first place. Finally, we ask that you do enter an award under the stalking protective order for my client due to Miss Weaver's continued harassing and stalking behaviors. She has tampered with locks. She has removed security cameras. We heard testimony that she blocks Mr. Weaver's car in the garage to where he can't leave. He's been unable to work and leave the residence due to her actions. And we have shown today that her actions will continue if permitted to reside in the property. So for those reasons, we ask that you enter an award under the stalking protective order today and dismiss Miss Weaver's petition for a protective order under the family violence statute. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Branch?
Thank you, Your Honor. So this case does get a little bit cloudy considering we've discussed who owns this property so much this afternoon. But that's not why we're here today. We're here to discuss the acts of family violence that have occurred. The respondent had said that he is the sole owner of this home, but does not have a name on a deed, hasn't provided any type of lease agreement to say that he has exclusive use of this property. And we heard from the owner of the house today that he would like his daughter to live there rather than his son. Despite these facts, the respondent is attempting to remove my client, who has a legal right to be there, and using force, destruction of property. And you can see from the evidence that there's been damages and injuries caused by the respondent while they were living together. Now, opposing counsel keeps bringing up the axe and points to the fact that there is a plastic cover on the end of an axe, but that is a tool that is used, has a blunt edge to begin with. And the force of hitting someone with an axe, with a cover on it or not, could kill you. And I do not see there being a legitimate purpose to pick up an axe and tell your sister that she can't come on the property. Now, they're also trying to make a claim that my client's behavior is harassing and stalking, and that there should be a counterclaim ordered against, or their counterclaim should be ruled in favor against mine. But it can't be stalking or harassment when there's a legitimate purpose for her being there. She has a legal right to be there. She has a vested interest in that property, and it has only been stopped by the fact that the mother's estate has yet to be probated. My client seeking this TPO has absolutely nothing to do with the probate case, and it would benefit her in no way, considering the probate case will determine when the property will be sold and what proceeds will go there. And the faster that goes on, both of these people will be out of the residence. But the respondent couldn't wait, and he's injured my client, he's harmed her property, and he's putting other people that are affiliated with her at risk. And it's likely to occur if this TPO is not granted. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for your testimony today. Thank you to the attorneys for presenting this case in an organized fashion. I do appreciate everyone's patience. It took a long time to get to your case being called. I have heard extensively at this point from both parties. I've seen an abundance of evidence. Obviously, there is a history here, and this case will go past today, obviously through the Superior Court proceedings and probate proceedings that are out there. But for today's purpose, my purview is narrow. I'm here to determine whether or not there's been an act of family violence and whether or not that act will continue into the future if this order is not to remain in effect. So I have a very narrow issue for this court's consideration today. And I do find that there has been sufficient evidence of a Family Violence Act, and that there is a continuing probability that those acts would occur into the future if this order were not to remain in effect. So therefore, I am extending this Family Violence Protective Order for the next 12 months. It will expire naturally 12 months from today's date on April 5th, 2024. The petitioner is awarded sole and exclusive possession of the residence. The respondent is ordered to stay away from the petitioner's residence, workplace, school, and future residence, workplace, school of the petitioner. The respondent is not to come within 100 yards of the petitioner or the petitioner's children. The respondent is to have no contact directly or indirectly with the petitioner or the petitioner's children, and this can include telephone, text message, fax, social media, anything of that nature, or having anyone else do that on the respondent's behalf. Obviously, this does not include the attorneys speaking to each other as it relates to probate, Superior Court matters, that type of thing. During the time that the possession of the home is with the petitioner, she shall not do anything to damage, destroy, encumber, or contract to sell or otherwise destroy and remove anything from the home. And nothing shall be disconnected, no utilities, services, anything that would be involving a change of the home, that shall not occur during this time. The attorneys will probably need to be involved in the future with any of that happening. It's further ordered that the respondent is going to need to attend the Family Violence Intervention Program and comply with the requirements of that program, with the first compliance hearing being April 28th at 9 o'clock in the morning in a virtual setting, and show completion of that program. Under federal law, you are not allowed to possess a firearm. Lastly, I put on here that this order shall not supersede any Superior Court orders pending, and possession and or ownership of the home will ultimately be determined in that court at a later date. Until that time, this order shall prevail and control. All right, that is the order of the court. I'm going to ask everyone to, I'm going to send you to breakout room. I'm going to ask that the respondent stay on with us. We're going to go off of live, and I'd like for you to give your email and telephone information to the clerk so that she can give that to our compliance officer.
Well, what did you think about that case? I thought it was very interesting. A little surprised that she put it in place. She also sort of glanced over the fact that the respondent's attorney filed incorrectly a counter petition. So I didn't hear her rule on the counter petition because I don't think it was properly filed. But yeah, interesting. Very interesting case. Anyways, I would love to hear what you guys think about this down below. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel. We are growing, and I am excited to bring you the next video. Thanks. Bye.